Right before the wedding, my sister's child spilled drink all over the dress I spent 6 months making. In front of 120 guests, the kid laughed. "Auntie, that was a funny joke. Now Mom will buy me an iPhone." I didn't cry. I walked backstage, opened my leather bag, and did something no one expected. 30 minutes later, the room fell silent. My name's Regina. I'm 31, the oldest child, the family problem solver, and the one who never missed a bill. I write brand copy for a living, and sew at night to keep my brain quiet. I grew up fixing hems in emergencies. If someone needed a ride, a loan, a spreadsheet, me. If Mom needed a form signed or Dad needed a printer installed, me. If my sister needed a babysitter, me. 6 months ago, I started making my wedding dress. Silk Mikado, hand-sewn pearls along the waist. A bodice I drafted 3 times until the darts lay flat like a held breath. I stitched late after work on our tiny kitchen table, chalk dust on my fingers, steam hissing from the iron, while my fiancé Evan washed dishes and told her to please, please sleep. I wouldn't. I wanted the dress to feel like work I did for myself, not another favor I owed. I'm the aunt who brings snacks in labeled bags and wet wipes. I can tie a bow with one hand and a zipper with the other. I also know my family's patterns, like I know the grain of silk, praise when I'm useful, jokes when I say no, guilt when I hold a boundary. Our wedding day started fine. Hair at 8, makeup at 10. By 2:00 p.m., I was in the bridal room behind the ballroom, standing on a small rug so the hem wouldn't pick up dust. My veil hung from a hook. The coordinator checked the timeline. Ceremony at 3:30, photos at 4:15, reception at 5. On the other side of the wall, I could hear the soft hum of the ballroom. 120 guests settling in. The door opened. My sister, Laya, swept in with her son Theo, 6 years old, sticky hands, a plastic cup of neon fruit punch. I said, "Hey, careful with that." Light voice, calm smile. He grinned up at me. Laya didn't look up from her phone. It happened in a half-second. A wobble, a laugh. The cup tilted. A red sheet of sugar landed across my bodice and spilled down the skirt like a wound. Warm, wet, sweet. I didn't even move. I just watched the stain bloom and felt my throat close. Laya gasped, but not at the dress. "Theo, say sorry." Her voice was bored, like a teacher in the last week of school. Theo blinked and said clear and bright, "Auntie, that was a funny joke. Now Mom will buy me an iPhone." He laughed like we were all in on it. The room went very quiet. The makeup artist froze, mascara one hovering. The coordinator whispered, "We can dab." Someone handed me a towel that felt useless. I looked at Laya. She finally looked at me. "Don't start," she said. "It's only a dress. You can make another. Only a dress. 6 months of nights, hundreds of hand stitches. My chest felt hollow, not hot. I could already hear the script forming. Don't ruin the day. Accidents happen. Be the bigger person." And then the next lines. "This is why we can't have you in charge of things, Regina. You're too emotional." I didn't cry. I lifted the stained skirt carefully, stepped off the rug, and crossed the hall. My leather bag sat on a chair by the garment rack, the old brown one I carry to every job, the one with a side pocket that sticks. I unzipped it. Inside what I packed last night, when something in my gut told me to stop trusting luck, I felt my hand steady. 5 minutes, I told the coordinator. "Tell the officiant to hold behind me." Laya said, "You're being dramatic." I didn't answer. I closed the door to the little service corridor, breathed once, and started moving. No shouting, no scene, just zippers, clips, a phone call, and a plan I had never wanted to use. 30 minutes later, when I stepped back into the ballroom, all 120 guests fell silent. I didn't become the family fixer by accident. Dad's hours were always in flux. Mom's calendar always overwhelmed. And Laya learned early that if she stalled long enough, someone else would do the work. That someone was me. I was the one who took extra shifts in high school for the electric bill, and the one who filed taxes for 3 households in college. Because the software confuses your father. Money made me the adult in rooms where I should have been the kid. When I got my first salary job, Mom texted, "Finally, we can breathe." When Laya got pregnant, I set up a budget spreadsheet, offered to help her find daycare, and ended up paying for half of it for the first year. "Just until I get on my feet," she'd said. 2 years later, I was still Venmoing on Fridays while she posted self-care day photos of brunches I couldn't afford. Every time I hinted at stopping, Mom would tilt her head and say, "You know, we wouldn't ask if we weren't desperate." Dad would shrug. Laya would joke, "You're the rich one, Regina." Because I had an emergency fund in a Costco membership. If I pushed back, I got new lines. Family means sharing. Don't be stingy. You know what? We sacrificed for you. Planning the wedding, turned the volume up on all of it. We booked a mid-range venue. Good food, no eye sculptures. Evan's parents offered to cover the rehearsal dinner. I covered my dress materials myself. No one owed me that. I sent Isla the hair and makeup info with prices, told her she could opt in or do her own. She replied, "Lol, just add me to your tab." When I said no, she wrote, "Wow, Bridezilla." The guest list became a battlefield. I kept it at 120. Laya kept sending names. They are basically family. She'd write about a coworker she'd known for 6 weeks. When I explained the per-plate cost, she replied with a shrug emoji and, "You're being cheap." Then came the extras. Leia wanted a kids' fun zone, arcade machines, a candy wall, a balloon installation for Theo's photos. I said no. She said Theo won't last through dinner without it. "You'll have a meltdown when he melts down. Do you want him screaming in the vows?" Mom chimed in. "Your sister knows children. Listen to her." 2 days later, I saw a $500 deposit hit my credit card from a party rental company I didn't recognize. The memo line read, "Kids own retainer." I called the number and a cheerful woman said, "Hi, Laya, confirm the package. 2 claw machines, a racing game, and the candy wall. We have a card on file." "What card?" I asked. "Ending in 4821. "Mine." I texted Laya, "Did you put the kids zone on my card?" She replied, "Relax, I'll pay you back." When? After the wedding, it's tacky to talk money right now. I felt that now familiar mix of heat in my cheeks and ice in my stomach. I canceled the authorization, moved the vendor to cash on delivery, and asked the coordinator to keep all extras pending my approval. That should have been the end. It wasn't. A week later, 3 new charges popped up. $1,200 at a salon, $389 at Sparkle & Company, and $74 at a novelty shop. Laya had booked a bridal glam trial for herself, not me, ordered a rhinestone clutch that said, "Mama," and bought Theo a tiny suit with LED shoes so he doesn't get bored. When I called, she laughed. "You're so intense. It's a wedding, not a courtroom." I said, "Stop using my card." She said, "If you wanted control, you shouldn't have given me the link." I hadn't. She'd reset the password to the shared planning portal by guessing my security question. "My childhood pet," Mom texted. "Please don't fight. It's bad luck." Then came the iPhone conversation. Leia cornered me at our parents' house while I was hemming Mom's dress. "Theo wants the new blue one. He'll behave if I promise it," she said, like we were negotiating with a terrorist. I said, "I'm not buying your 6-year-old a $900 phone." She rolled her eyes. "Not you, me, but you could help with a little down payment as a gift." "No," I said. She went quiet. "You've changed since you met Evan," she said like it was an accusation. "You used to be generous." Generous had always meant available. It meant I absorbed impact. The tiny turning point wasn't dramatic. It was a Tuesday night at 11:12 p.m. I was double-checking our final invoices, and something told me to open the shared email account Mom insists the family uses for deals. On the second page, I found a thread labeled Upgrade Approvals. Leia had forwarded the venue manager my card and written, "Regina approves these additions. Premium bar, late night sliders, the candy wall reinstated, and an extra 30 guests." The total pushed us over budget by thousands. I stared at the screen and felt something inside me click into place. I wasn't going to argue in circles again, crying in a car, letting them call me selfish. I took screenshots of everything. Timestamps, totals, the IP address from the portal log in Yila's house. I downloaded my last 2 years of transfers to family, daycare, utilities, emergency teeth whitening, highlighted every dollar. I printed receipts at the office on thick paper because the thinner kind curls under fingers when people wave it around. I made a little folder. On the front, I wrote in block letters, "Boundaries." I tucked that folder into my leather bag the night before the wedding, right next to a simple white silk jumpsuit I'd finished a month earlier, just in case. I told myself I was being paranoid. And then Theo laughed, and the punch ran down my skirt, and Laia said, "It's only a dress." I stepped into the service corridor and closed the door. My hands moved like I'd rehearsed it. Dress off, jumpsuit on, hairpin back in, wiped the red streaks from my arms with cold paper towels until the sweetness stopped clinging to my skin. I called the coordinator. "2 requests," I said. 1, please ask the DJ to put a slide on the screen when I cue him. 2, hold the candy wall, kids zone, and premium bar at the dock unless someone pays cash. "Copy," she said, voice steady like she'd done worse. I opened the folder label Boundaries and added one more thing, a small stack of copies. I breathed. I walked back toward the ballroom, where 120 guests were waiting. The chatter dimmed when I came in. The jumpsuit wasn't dramatic. Clean lines, pearl buttons at the cuffs, but the contrast to the ruined dress made people straighten in their chairs. Yila's eyes narrowed like she'd been cheated out of something. I took the mic from the DJ and faced all 120 guests. 2 minutes, I told the room. I smiled at Evan in the front row. He nodded once. Everyone else faded out. "I'm not going to make a speech about fate," I said. "I'm going to talk about boundaries." "Hello," surprised murmur rolled through the room. I kept my voice calm. "Some of you know I made my dress. 10 minutes ago, my nephew spilled punch on it. He's 6. He repeated a line an adult gave him. I glanced at Laia. "Not cruel, just clear." That was a moment, not the first. I've been the family problem solver for a long time. I've paid daycare, utilities, deposits I didn't approve, and accidental upgrades to tonight's event. That ends today. Laia stood. "You're humiliating me," she hissed. I raised the folder. "No, I'm clarifying." I nodded to the DJ. The screen behind me lit up with a simple slide. Dates, amounts, and 2 phrases. "Pay by Regina," and "promised to repay." Ednora said, "This isn't the time." I said, "It's exactly the time. Because I love this day. And because I want a marriage, not a payroll." Yila's mouth twisted. "Are you calling me a thief?" I flipped to the second slide. A screenshot of the venue email. Her Regina approves these. The total highlighted. Gasps. The venue manager standing in the back winced. He knew he'd called me yesterday when I put a hold on everything. Pending cash. Mom stood now. Voice bright with performance. "We'll talk later. You're ruining your wedding." I met her eyes. I didn't ruin my wedding. He tried to add $7,860 to it. I handed a copy of the invoice to the coordinator who carried stacks down the aisles like church bulletins. Dad muttered, "Money is money," like a slogan. I nodded. "Exactly, and money is not love. So here are the facts." I held up the first page of the folder. In 2 years, I've transferred $12,430 to family expenses. I kept the receipts. I'm not asking for it back. I'm asking for it to stop. Leia laughed sharp. "You can afford it." Afford had always been code for you won't complain. I took a breath. The kids zone, premium bar, candy wall, and extra guests are held at the dock right now. If you want them, you can pay the vendor in cash. If not, we'll have the wedding I actually planned." The room was dead quiet. I could hear the compressor on the ice machine through the wall. 3 reactions, like clockwork. Aggression. Laya's voice. "Shut up. You're petty. You're jealous. You always wanted to control me." Manipulation. Mom put a hand to her chest. "What will people think of us? You're making your sister feel small on your big day. Is that how you honor family? Humiliation." Dad snorted. "You're nobody without us. We raised you." I didn't flinch. "I'm not a bank," I said. "I'm a person. And the person I am wants to marry Evan without buying approval." I handed the mic back to the DJ, looked at the coordinator, and said, "Please start the ceremony." Then I turned to Laya. "One last thing." I kept my voice soft. "Theo, come here." He shuffled forward, eyes big. I knelt to his height. "I'm not mad at you. Adults say things that aren't fair sometimes. Today you don't get an iPhone. Today you get to watch your aunt get married." He nodded, lower lip wobbling, and buried his face in Laya's skirt. Laya pulled him back like I tried to hex him. I walked to Evan. The officiant cleared his throat. The music started, and the room finally stayed silent. We said our vows without candy walls or claw machines. Our friends cheered. Evan's mom dabbed at her eyes and whispered, "Good for you," like she'd been holding it in for years. After the first dance, my phone started buzzing. Family group chat. "Laya, you embarrass me." "Mom, we will discuss reimbursements privately." "Dad, you owe gratitude." I put my phone face down under my place card. Evan squeezed my hand. "You okay?" I scanned the room. The people who'd shown up, actually shown up. "Yeah," I said, and felt how true it was. The next morning, the escalation began. 3 voicemails before breakfast. "Mom, you need to apologize to your sister. She had a panic attack last night. Leia, you ruined the vibe." Theo cried himself to sleep. "Dad, return the deposit so we can reorganize a family celebration that isn't about money." I brewed coffee and opened my laptop. I canceled every auto payment attached to my accounts that didn't have my name on the bill. The family phone plan, gone. The streaming services, new passwords, the temporary transfer to Laya's rent, closed. I emailed the daycare I've been quietly funding for 2 years. "Please remove my card. Future invoices must go to the parent on file." I CC Laya so she couldn't pretend she hadn't seen it. By noon, the group chat was a wildfire. "Leia, so you're abandoning your nephew?" "Mom, this is cruelty." "Dad, we'll remember this," I replied once. "I love Theo. I'm not funding your choices anymore." Then I muted the thread. At 2 p.m., a cousin who never texts me DM'd. "Is everything okay? Aunt Mara says you turned off the bar mid-wee." I sent her the slide of the invoice with the note. "Mid-planning, not mid-wedding." She replied with a single, "Oh," the passive "oh" of a person who enjoys the show but doesn't want to splash. By evening, the finger-pointing started turning inward. Screenshots landed from a rogue aunt. Every family has one who likes drama, but prefers to aim it accurately. In one, Mom wrote to her sisters, "If Regina didn't gatekeep money, we wouldn't have had to go around her." In another, Laya snapped, "You were supposed to distract her during check-in." A third from Dad. "She learned this coldness from Evan. He's separating her from us." People reveal themselves when they think you're still covering for them. I wasn't. 2 days later, Laya tried a new strategy. She posted a long captioned photo on Facebook of Theo holding a paper sign that said, "I'm sorry," with a paragraph about family forgiveness and brides who forget the meaning of love. Comments rolled in from her friends. "Oh my God, what happened?" Mom replied under each with vague little hearts and, "It's complicated." Inviting confusion like a potluck. I didn't respond online. I sent one email to the small subset of relatives who mattered to me, the ones who've been kind to Evan and me over the years. Short, Factual, no adjectives, screenshots of the unauthorized charges, a breakdown of what I'd paid historically, and a simple line at the end. Going forward, I will not be funding or managing family expenses. Please direct any questions to the person who incurred them. Half an hour later, Edna wrote back, I'm sorry. I saw, but I didn't see. Tell me how to support you now. I told her, by not acting confused when I say no. Meanwhile, consequences did what speeches can't. The daycare called Leia about her balance. The phone company emailed Mom about the past due amount that had been auto-paid from my card for months. The venue processed only what I'd approved. The vendors treated the rest like a separate event they weren't attending. Leia tried to float checks that didn't clear. Dad asked for a one-time bridge. I didn't answer. The last gasp was theatrical. Mom showed up at our apartment, unannounced with a Tupperware of lasagna, and the expression she uses when she wants to reset a narrative. Evan cracked the door and said politely, Now isn't a good time. She pushed past him like she owned the air. Regina, we're family, she began, setting the lasagna on the counter like a prop. You don't humiliate family. You handle problems privately. I pointed at the folder on the table. I handled them privately for 10 years, I said. You humiliated me by treating my work like a faucet. She sighed. You've always been so dramatic. There it was, the word they use when I stop absorbing. I walked her to the door. Mom, I said. I love you. I'm done being your plan B. She blinked. So that's it? You're cutting us off? I'm cutting off the money and the access, I said. You can call me when you want to talk about things that aren't a bill. For a second, I saw something like understanding flash across her face. Then the door clicked, and I stood in the quiet and realized my shoulders had dropped an inch. Not everyone doubled down. 2 weeks after the wedding, my cousin June texted, Can we get coffee? She's Leia's age, always stuck between teams. We met at a small place near my office. She picked at her sleeve. I watched how fast they turned on you, she said. I always thought if I kept paying for little things, they'd love me more. They don't. They just ask more. I'm tired. We sat there for an hour. 2 quiet people admitting we were done. Later that night, she left the family group chat. Leia posted, Traitor. June didn't reply. Evan's family slid into the space mine left. His mom mailed me a photo from the wedding. Me in the jumpsuit, laughing while my friends hold the stained dress like a banner. All of us grinning like we'd survived a storm. On the back, she wrote, You looked like yourself. I hung it on the fridge with a magnet that says, No. People ask if I regret making a speech. I don't. I regret the years before it, where I thought being quiet was the same as being kind. The dress is at the dry cleaner. Maybe the stain will lift. Maybe it won't. I'm okay either way. The jumpsuit feels like the truest thing I've ever worn because I put it on when I chose me. Leia still posts. Last week she wrote, Some people forget where they came from. I didn't reply. I was at my sewing machine tracing a new bodice for a client who found me through a friend who saw the jumpsuit and said, I want that confidence in fabric. My little side hustle suddenly has a wait list. People pay on time. They say please and thank you. The work is the same, but it feels different because it belongs to me. Mom called yesterday. The first 2 minutes were weather and recipes. Then she said carefully, I miss you. I said, I miss the version of you who didn't see me as a resource. She went quiet, then said, I'm working on it. That's not an apology, but it's a start. Starts count. Theo drew me a picture. Stick figure me with big hair and a speech bubble that says, no. Kids watch everything. If he grows up understanding that no is not a betrayal, maybe the story changes before it repeats. Here's what I know now. Love without boundaries is just debt with nicer words. I'm not a wallet. I'm not an all-night copy center for emergencies I didn't create. I'm a person who made something beautiful and watched it get stained and chose in that moment to make something stronger. I thought the room fell silent because I shocked them. Maybe it went quiet because For once, I didn't fill the air with explanations. I didn't cry. I walked backstage, opened my leather bag, and chose myself. And I'm not sorry.